Welcome to another installment of TBR Jar Picks My Monthly TBR. We are going to be picking the TBR for the month of February, and of course, February reminds me of love. It's Valentine's Day. We have Black History Month, so definitely going to be prioritizing Black authors and romance reads. So let's just dive right in. This is my TBR jar, and we are literally down to the nitty-gritty. Like, I used this all last year, well, most of last year. I think I started in like April or March. And since then, I haven't refilled the jar, so we don't have any repetitive prompts, but we're getting down to it. I usually pick about 6 prompts a month, and this has 6 for sure, but probably about 10. So not too many to choose from, but they all should be new, ones that we've never done before. The TBR cart is looking really, really full, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what happened here. I don't know how it's just gotten so full. I mean, it has just, you know, the holidays just passed. I did get some new books, so that could be why. But we literally have some up here we don't even have room for. Also, I actually literally just came back from the public library, and I had a couple of books that I picked up. I was gonna grab them, but they're like back here in a little basket, so I'm gonna keep them back there. But I'm gonna also think about those when I'm picking my prompts, because I might wanna grab some of those as well as ones off of my TBR cart. Okay, let's dive right in and grab the first prompt. First prompt for the month of February is going to be a new release, which is really interesting because this year we have so many new releases. The first one that comes off the top of my head is Onyx Storm, because it literally came out like a few weeks ago, January 21st, but I haven't read Iron Flame, so that's not gonna happen. We have so many new releases. I'll have to double check and see if any of the ones that are on my like immediate TBR are being released in early February or during the month of February at all. So let me do that right now, and then I'll get back to you guys. Okay, to no one's surprise, there's multiple books that are coming out in February that I definitely want to read, and I'm just on Goodreads right now. First one off the top of my head is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I am very excited to read this, but I know this is one of the books that I mentioned that is an anticipated new release for me. We have Scythe and Sparrow, which is book 3 in the Ruinous Love trilogy. I haven't read Leather and Lark, so I don't know if I would choose that one just because I haven't read the book before it. And then we have First Time Caller by B.K. Borson, which I actually really want to read for some reason. Like, it just looks, the cover is beautiful. I did request it on NetGalley and I got denied, so now I have some beef. But I think looking through these, the one that kind of immediately pops out is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose that for my February TBR. We don't have it physically, but we are going to have that be book number 1. I'll leave the prompt right here, that way I can know that we do have a book on the TBR, but that might just mean we have to pull an extra prompt so that we have 6 physical books to talk about. So let's move on to prompt number 2. We have this one. Let's see what it says. A purple cover, which is so funny because Deep End by Ali Hazelwood is literally a purple cover. So a purple cover, let's take a look. I already know what I'm going with. Yeah, I don't really have to look twice. It's gonna be Miss Daydream. It's gonna be Miss Hannah Grace, Daydream by Hannah Grace to be exact. I've been looking forward to this book since it came out, but when it came out, I hadn't read Wildfire, which is the second book in this like interconnected series. So I wanted to prioritize Wildfire, and then there's no new book release or announcement that's been put out there for this series. So I've been holding on to this one and not read it like immediately because I want something to look forward to. But like I mentioned, it's February, romance month. This is a college romance. She's a baker, he's a hockey player. Like, what more do we want? So I'm gonna go ahead and read this one this month, hopefully, fingers crossed. This is, I think, on my 25 books for 2025. I've been looking forward to this one for months. So this is gonna be technically book number 2 on our February TBR. Yay, we have a book picked out, and it happens to be a romance, which is really exciting. Okay, we have 2 books on our TBR. Let's go for prompt number 3. So far, so good. We have 2 romances on the TBR, which, like I mentioned, I kind of want this TBR to be romance heavy just because it is, you know, Valentine's Day month. Third prompt, fantasy read. This is interesting. So obviously, that's not really one of my top priorities this month, but there is a book that I have been wanting to read because it happens to have a new release in this series later this year. probably in like a month or two. So it would be perfect timing for me to read Reckless by Lauren Roberts. And coincidentally, I was actually thinking about this series like yesterday, and I was just thinking about our main characters, Kai and Peyton. And I don't know, it just made me want to continue the series. So this is one that I've actually really been looking forward to. So we're gonna add this one. This actually happens to be romance. It's romantasy. It's a fantasy book with a huge romance subplot. So actually this is perfect. You get to dive a little bit into a different genre, but still stick to our romance read. So that's actually a great prompt, and I'm very excited to put this on my TBR. This is book number 3 for our February TBR. We are flying through this. Let's go to number 4. Let's see what we get. We're going with, you know what? I must have some really good karma because this says any romance. That's phenomenal. But there's so many on here that's gonna make it very hard for me to choose one specific one. Let me grab some that I'm like thinking about immediately. Okay, I have 3 here that I would love to read in the month of February. Let me just show you which ones. The first one is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde, and this is by Tia Williams, who is a Black author, so I think this is actually a really good option. I just picked this up from the library maybe 20 minutes ago, so this did just get added to the TBR within the last hour. This is option number 1. We have Love and Written by Lauren Asher. This is book 2 in the like Lake Wisteria Lakefront Billionaires series. And then last but not least, we have Reckless, which is book number 4 in the Chestnut Springs series. This is the next book that I'm on basically. Oh my gosh, it would be so funny if I picked this one because this one's called Reckless, this one's called Reckless. About a month or 2 ago, I actually had Powerless, the 3rd Chestnut Springs book, and Powerless, the 1st book in this series, on the TBR at the same time. And I read both of them, so that would be really funny if I did that, right? So I think I want to do that just because, I mean, what a coincidence, and it happened the first time. I read both of them, really enjoyed both of them, so maybe this time it will be the same. So I think I'm gonna go with Reckless by Elsie Silver, book 4 in the Chestnut Springs series, to accompany Reckless by Lauren Roberts. That's really funny. I'm gonna keep these other romances though at the very high top tip of my priority list because I genuinely want to read these this month. So hoping I can pick this one next. All right, so that's technically 4. Let's go to prompt number 5. My gosh, we really don't have very many prompts left. That's kind of crazy, but here is the next prompt. It is going to be, not me having difficulty opening it. It wants to say shut. Book by BIPOC author. Did I not manifest that? I found it really interesting that every time I do one of these videos, like I'm just speaking stuff into existence, and it's really, really weird. Like if you go to my last month TBR video, which was the TBR jar video for January, it was so weird because I kept coming up with this one book every single time, every prompt, and eventually I chose it because it was just weird, like if I didn't. Anyway, weird tangent. Obviously gonna go with this one, A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. Very, very excited for this. This actually came out last year. I don't know why I didn't pick it up last year. I really wanted to read it. I think I just never owned it, so it kind of just kept getting pushed back. This time I made sure to put it in for a hold at my public library. It was available, so I picked it up today, and now it is going on the TBR, and I will probably most likely read this. This is another romance between 2 characters. I actually don't really know much of what's going on, but this author actually wrote 7 Days in June, which was a Reese's Book Club pick a few years ago, and I loved that book. I think I rated it maybe not 5 stars in the moment. I did rate it pretty highly though, but looking back, it's definitely a 5-star read. I love that book. I think about it all the time. It was so well written. There were so many things mentioned in that book that I feel like a lot of time gets swept under the rug, like chronic illness, disability. There was just so many things in there that really were eye-opening and really nice to see. It was also a romance between 2 authors. They were like childhood friends to, like, it was a whole thing. I just really, really enjoyed that book. So hopefully Tia Williams can spark some of that into this one and I'll love it just as much. But that's enough yapping for now. I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the TBR. So that's technically 1 with Deep End, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's grab another one for sure. And then I think I'm still gonna grab another one after that, if that makes sense. But would you look at that? Oh, one fell out. It's destiny. Let's see what it says. Your choice. Wow, this month, loving it. This is gonna be a really good month for us, I think, because I'm loving the prompts. Your choice. I mean, there's a lot of romances I could pick that I definitely want to read. I think I know which one I want to go with, and it is not a romance, which is going to be a little bit surprising, but it's going to be Razor Blade Tears. This one has been on my TBR for a couple years now. I've always kind of felt drawn to it. I don't know why I've never picked it up. It's by a Black author, which is going to be perfect for this month because it is Black History Month. I mean, obviously the cover is beautiful, but I've heard so many amazing things about this. Every time people like see it in one of these videos, they always say that it's such a good book that I need to read it soon, and I just don't know why it's taking me so long. This one I know for sure is also on my 25 books for 2025. So for those reasons, I'm gonna pick this one. It is not a romance. I think this is more historical fiction, if not contemporary fiction. It says a Black father, a white father, two dead sons, a quest for revenge and redemption. So very, very intriguing. It's gonna be about prejudices, two ex-cons with little in common, like a lot. Sounds a little heavy, sounds a little deep, but I think that's something that I need this month with having just it being so romance heavy. So I'm gonna add this to the TBR for the month of February. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick one more prompt just to see what we end up with, and we'll see how that kind of goes over with our TBR that we have already picked. So there's literally 3 left. Should we, you know what? Oh, there's 4 left. I'm gonna look at these all because there's only 4 left. There's not enough for another TBR jar video for next month, like a full one with just these prompts. So I'm gonna grab these, look at them all, and then we'll just pick one because for next month, we'll probably end up throwing in all of our old prompts and adding some new ones. So we have a nice full jar, but this is what's left of the jar. So let's just see what prompts we have. We have nonfiction, book cover, that is my favorite color, illustrated cover, and rom-com, which is so funny because we have a lot of rom-coms. I was gonna say, can we pick one that has all 4 of these prompts? But I don't think so. Finding a rom-com that's nonfiction, has an illustrated cover, and has a cover that's color like yellow, orange, or green, it's gonna be really, really hard. I'm just gonna take a look here and maybe pick one that I kind of want to mood read because, again, I like prioritizing mood reading sometimes because TBRs can get a little bit overwhelming, and sometimes you just need something that you know you're gonna love. This is gonna be a bit out of left field, but I'm gonna go with this one, another library book that I just picked up. It's called Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. This is a thriller, so mystery thriller. We don't have any of that on our current TBR, and I think this will be great for in between romances, in between some of these deeper reads that I just kind of need a break for. I've been really, really looking forward to reading thriller mysteries. I don't know why, it's just been a couple months since I really read like a good one, and I've read 2 other books by this author and absolutely loved them. I can't stop thinking about those books, raving about them, so I think this is going to be a really good one for me. It's not super long. It's the perfect little palette cleanser, so we're going to add this as the 7th and final book to our TBR. So let's review all the books that are on my February TBR. So book number 1, we don't own, new release. It's gonna be Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is a rom-com, but her last rom-com that I read wasn't super rom-com-y. It was more of an erotica, which she even mentions in the like cover page and kind of does some sort of like disclaimer. So I think this one is going to be similar. I think it's gonna be very steamy, very physical. I think this is about 2 like swimmers. So she's diving in, you get it, punny, she's diving into the sports romance sort of realm. She usually sticks to STEM romances, which I'm really, really love those. Very satisfied with her STEM romances, but I think her diving into a sports romance will be really interesting. I'm very excited for this. Romance number 1 for the month of February. Let's pretend I'm putting it on here because I always do that. Next book is Daydream by Hannah Grace, another sports romance. This is a rom-com, college romance as well. I think they're friends to lovers. I think that's the trope. I'm not 100% sure, but I do really love Hannah Grace's writing and her romances because I feel like her male main characters are just walking green flags. They're usually pretty emotional, vulnerable, just very emotionally intelligent, which sometimes you just crave in a male main character. I just think they're really, really unique and something that the romance genre as a whole needs more of. Not a huge super fan of like Grumpy Sunshine type of romances just because I don't love like that super alpha male, very kind of dark and not emotional type of partner in a male character. So I really, really enjoy her romances thus far because of that. So we'll see how I feel about this one. I think the cover is is beautiful. She's a baker, which is so cute. There's literally like cookies and just stuff behind her. I haven't heard, I was gonna say I haven't heard the greatest things, but I have heard great things, just not as great as like her other previous romances. So we'll see. I'm gonna try not to let that get to my head and enjoy this book for what it is. So this is book number 2 on our February TBR. Next up is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is book 2, 3. Book 3 or 2.5, no, book 3. No, book 2. This is book 2 in the Powerless trilogy. Technically, I say book 3 because there is a little novella in between Powerless and Reckless. It's called Powerful, which I really enjoyed. Read that I think in December, so it's pretty fresh in my memory. So that's why I want to continue this series and kind of prioritize it, because I definitely want to keep it like in the forefront of my mind. And like I mentioned, the next book in this series comes out in maybe March or April, the next few months. So I want to catch up and be up to date once that book is released. So this is going to be a fantasy with a heavy romance subplot. This is about Caden. This is about Kai and Peyton. Peyton is our female main character, Kai is our male, and they're very much enemies to lovers in this next book because of what happens in the first book. I mean, they were also enemies to lovers in the first book, but just so many things happened, and now we're in a very precarious situation with them two, and I just want to know what's going to happen next. So I'm actually very excited to read this. This is definitely one of the books on my 25 books for 2025, and I definitely want to keep thinking about that list so I can actually maybe finish it, hopefully. Fingers crossed. We'll see, but for now, this is book 3 on the February TBR. Next up is another romance. It is Reckless by Elsie Silver. Same title as the one that we just talked about, which again, very interesting. But this is book 4 in the Chestnut Springs series. The last book in the series so far is my favorite, Powerless. I absolutely loved it. I loved the 2 main characters. I loved their romance. This one is about Theo Silva and Winter Hamilton. She's a sister from one of the girls in the earlier book, so I actually have been really waiting for her book because she's been kind of hinted at in the previous books. And then Theo is a very interesting character who I'm very excited to read about too, so I am definitely excited for this. I have thus far annotated every single book in this series, so I don't really see that being any different this time around. Probably will also be annotating this book because I want to have the entire series annotated by the time I finish it. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. This is going to be a romance. He's scorching hot trouble wrapped up in a drool-worthy package, and he's looking at her like she might be his next meal. So that's just the little blurb at the top here. Elsie Silver, I've really fallen in love with her writing. I think she's just great. I love her romances. They're just very compelling and convincing. And then obviously, who doesn't love cowboy romances? I'll let you guys know my thoughts after I finish reading this. Next up is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. She is the author of a different book that I really enjoyed, but I honestly don't know much about what this book is about other than it is a romance. At the very top, it just says, 1 florist, 1 pianist, 1 love story, 100 years in the making. So I'm assuming our 2 characters have some history, which I love that. I think they're just always so tender, like second chance romances or childhood friends to lovers. Those are my favorite tropes. So again, very excited for this one, as you guys can tell. Next up, Razorblade Tears. So not a romance, this is more of a fiction book. I'm actually gonna look it up on Goodreads right now and see really what this actual genre is because I'm not 100% sure and I don't want to give false information. It's rated very highly, 4.10, which I don't always check. I don't ever check Goodreads ratings because I like to kind of make up my own mind. But I really kind of already knew that this book is highly rated because of all the good things and the recommendations that you guys have all kind of just said. This one is fiction, thriller, mystery thriller, crime, contemporary. So very interesting genres, some of my favorites. So I actually feel like I'm really gonna love this book. It's been on the TBR for a while, so I'm glad it's finally making the jump, and I am really looking forward to reading this month. And the final book on our TBR is Things We Do in the Dark. Like I mentioned, this is a thriller mystery and by one of my favorite thriller mystery authors. So very much looking forward to this. The reason I found this, I feel like I have seen it now that I'm looking at the cover. I feel like I have seen it kind of float around on BookTube, Bookstagram, BookTalk. But I found it because I was just thinking about wanting to read a thriller mystery and I was thinking about the authors, thought of this one, and I went to Goodreads and found that this book was actually not released not too long ago. I've read older older books by this author, so I was like, oh, I skipped one. So this was released in 2022. Never read it, and obviously really liked her writing, so that's how I ended up picking this one. I think I'm gonna go into it kind of blindly. I don't really want to know what it's about, but I just know it's gonna be good because, again, love this author. So those are all of the books on my February TBR. Very much looking forward to getting these off of my cart because these are some that I have been waiting for. They're long awaited for. They're books in series, romance books, Black authors, all the good stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video and you'll stick around and watch me finish these books because, again, hopefully I can read all of them because that's the point. But if not, I'll see you guys in my next TBR jar video. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you when I see ya. Bye!